Remember back in January when I said that I'd have plans out by the beginning of February? Well, that was a lie, but I do finally have them out now. Just like this Outfeed table that I did, it just took way longer than expected, but I have plans out for like all of my most popular videos, so you can go there, link in the description. This has been our request for a long time, so to make people less nervous and just to make things a lot easier on myself, in this video I finally made an outfeed table. And it's very large, and it's got a lot of storage, which is very nice. And the best part is I made it entirely out of scrap and caul and pallet wood, basically just all reclaimed wood. So this right here is all of my offcuts and scrap and stuff like that, and basically what I have to do now is turn all of this into panels that I can actually work with. And to do that, they all have to have at least like one common dimension, if that makes sense. So I chose 1.5 inches, so I cut all my scrap to be 1.5 inches by whatever. It can be 1.5 inches by 1 inch or 1.5 inches by 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, whatever. And now you can see these very large piles of 1.5 inch material that I've made. And I have these separated into two different piles. The one on the left is all larger pieces that I can use to make the bigger panels, like the top and the sides. So here I am, I'm gluing up one of the bigger panels, I'm gluing up the top right now. And also with these larger panels, I have to use screws since I don't have long enough clamps. And I'm also planing in between each layer so it stays flat. And then for the smaller panels, like the drawer fronts and the doors, I can just use the smaller material. And I actually have long enough clamps for this one, so instead of using screws like in the other ones, I can just use normal clamps. Here's all the panels glued up, and just this step of gluing up all the panels took 2 weeks of the project, and now I have to clean them up a bit. So for the bigger panels, I cut them all to size with a circular saw, and then I flatten them with an electric hand planer since they're too big to go through my normal planer. And then I just had to cut all the joints, and all the joints were just like half laps and dados, so I was able to do all that with just a router. The smaller panels were a little bit different. For one, they were small enough to just be cut on the table saw. So after I attached a straight edge, that step went pretty fast. And then for planing, some of the smaller panels, like the drawer fronts, those just fit right through the planer. But the doors were still too big, and I had to do those by hand. But the good news is I only had to do one side, because on the other side I'm going to do some power carving. I did something similar to this in my 5 gifts video, making bowls, and I liked it a lot. So instead of trying to make these doors and drawer fronts perfectly flat, which would be a lot harder and take a lot longer, I'm just going to do the opposite. I'm going to make these as wavy as possible and just pretend it's art. So I'm power carving these using some flap discs that I got from Empire Abrasives, and they gave me a $200 credit to try out their products, and I was very pleased. With those $200, I was able to get 10 flap discs, 7 sanding belts, 300 sanding pads, and 200 sheets of sandpaper. So check that out in the description. It's actually pretty cheap, and you can also get a discount with my code on top of that. And now that all the panels are done, I can just fit them together to make the outfeed table. Oh, good. Now that I have it all put together, I just need to sand and finish the outfeed table. And I sanded the top up to 220 to get it really nice. And then the sides I didn't care quite as much about, and I got those up to just 120. And then to finish the top, not to shove more products down your throat, but I also got sent stuff from Total Boat Epoxy. And they sent me this like polyurethane that I guess is like really strong. It's meant for like countertops and stuff like that specifically, so I'm using that on the top. They also sent me epoxy and stuff like that, but I kind of want to save that for the summer because I kind of want to make another boat at some point, I think. That little container of polyurethane, obviously, it's not going to be enough for the whole thing because this thing is very large. So for the sides that don't need as much protection, I am just using shellac. Also, to address some other concerns, I finally got dust collection. My shop is also just like a general storage area for my family, so there's a lot of just like random junk in here that I need to move around or just get out of here so that I could have space for it. But once I got all that out of there, I moved in this new dust collector. I actually got it, my aunt gave it to me, and it used to be her dad's, who was a woodworker too. So that was pretty cool. Thank you to her. And yeah, so I got that, and then I also just got a bunch of vacuums that I could hook up to all my tools. So hopefully people are less nervous watching my videos.